So Jim Knowles is gone. Is Chip Kelly looking? And Ryan Day is in contract negotiations. What do we think this means for Michigan? We'll talk about it coming up next. Welcome to the Point a Minute show on Michigan football at the voice of college football, where we average one outstanding point for every minute of video. My name is Cliff. His name is Mac. Let's get into it. Mac, so we found this article on, the Columbus Dispatch, and the title of it is, Jim Knowles wanted out of Ohio State football, but was it just about the money? And I think the key quote from this, I would counter that in 30 plus years of covering college football, never have I witnessed a lateral move like this. It is strange that he's going from the defensive coordinator at Ohio State to the defensive coordinator at Penn State. Penn State, obviously, it makes sense for them. They're looking for a national championship. They came oh so close this year, so picking up Jim Knowles from Ohio State makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is that he left Ohio State, the current reigning national champions. Why did Jim Knowles leave Ohio State?
It is a head scratcher. It is a head scratcher. And so you just kind of got to stop and you got to ask yourself, is there trouble in paradise? Are there culture issues in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center? That's what they call it, right? Is the Woody Hayes Athletic Center? Are there problems in Columbus? Potentially. From what it sounds like, some of the reporting is that the reporting's kind of been all over the place. It kind of sounds like nobody really knows, other than Penn State basically gave him a blank check and said, feel free to write in a number. And then he wrote in the most ridiculous number he could think of. And Penn State was just like, yeah, all right. and went along with it. Like, okay, sure, whatever. It's still a head scratcher though, because you got to think Ohio State probably would have been able to counter that, right? If given the chance, right?
Yeah, you would think so.
You would think so. I mean, like the article says, they're not broke. But it turns out that Jim Knowles was looking at Oklahoma and one other. I can't remember what the third one was. Notre Dame. He was actually looking at Notre Dame, which was interesting because I was listening to Cover 3, the Cover 3 podcast earlier, and they were talking about, head coaches. There's this thing where coaches like to hire other coaches that they can't beat. And so, and what's really fascinating about this is that Andy Kotelnicki, the current offensive coordinator at Penn State, actually used to coach at Kansas. I think he was the offensive coordinator or the head coach. I can't remember which. But he used to coach at Kansas, which means that he used to go up against Jim Knowles all the time when he was at Oklahoma State. And so Andy Kotelnicki has 2 games. This is what they said. I think I can't remember which of the Cover 3 guys said this, but he said there's 2 games in which Andy Kotelnicki's offense never scored a touchdown. One was when he was at Kansas against Oklahoma State with Jim Knowles as the DC. The other one was at Penn State this year against Ohio State with Jim Knowles as the DC. So at this point, so he's saying at this point, it's guaranteed that Penn State's going to score at least a touchdown on offense against everybody that they play, because Jim Knowles isn't the defensive coordinator for anybody else, right? Anyway, it's an interesting thing then that maybe James Franklin went to Andy Kotelnicki and said, "Who's the best defensive coordinator you've ever played against?" And Kotelnicki just goes, "Jim Knowles," and James Franklin's like, "All right, we'll go get him." I mean, maybe that's what happened over at Penn State. I don't know. Why did Jim Knowles leave though? It sounds like it was the money. It sounds like there was some tense conversations happening with Ryan Day. Apparently he and this guy Jerry, what was his name? Larry Johnson. Sorry, not Jerry. Larry Johnson. He and Larry Johnson were butting heads a little bit as well. I heard something like Larry Johnson tends to be one of the bigger voices in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center for some reason.
I thought they were saying earlier in the year it was Larry Johnson and Jim Knowles were actually butting heads.
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean, is that I think I think they were butting heads. I think it probably didn't help either that Jim Knowles allowed 13 points against Michigan's worst offense since Denard Robinson for 4 interceptions against Notre Dame in 2012.
Yeah.
Jim Knowles probably sees Davis Warren in his nightmares, and that's well deserved because Davis Warren Man, love that guy. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there are a lot of different reasons why he left. Money certainly seems to be one of the driving factors, but again, I mean, Ohio State could have matched it, so I imagine there's something else going on here too.
Well, yeah, okay. So why didn't Ohio State match it? They've got the money, right? What's going on there?
Well, it sounds
and
like
I say that knowing because I've already seen the posts. But go ahead.
I mean, it sounds like Ohio State was going to offer him a contract extension. So it says here, Ohio State was going to offer him a contract extension that would have made him the highest paid defensive coordinator in college football, with Wink Martindale being a close second, I think, or somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so it does sound like they were going to offer him something. They were going to offer him enough to become the highest paid coordinator in college football. What exactly is that number, and how does it compare to what Penn State's offering him? Is Penn State offering him more than whatever this extension was? It's entirely possible. I saw a Twitter post that said Penn State has the most CEOs as alumni. So maybe there's a lot of money there that we didn't consider with Penn State, which I don't know why we wouldn't consider that. I mean, every alumnus base for the most part has millions of dollars at its disposal. I mean, freaking all Western Michigan has to do is go down to the Sealy Auto dealership and ask him for $1 million, and they could get whatever D3 coach they want.
Right. Well, now, how much truth is there to I was seeing the posts and the articles on Ohio State having that $37 million deficit in their budget?
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, I don't think any athletic department, last I heard, Michigan was operating at a double-digit $1 million deficit too.
Okay.
And I think most of them do. I think the reason that that's big news actually is because Ohio State at one point was like one of a handful of athletic departments that operated at a revenue surplus, or just a profit, made a profit year over year. There was only a handful of them, and Ohio State was one of them. And so the fact that they operated at a $37 million budget deficit last year is, I mean, that's big in of itself because, they're losing money now. Why? I think the question here, though, is if the budget deficit doesn't have anything to do with it, which I don't think it does, I think that it's more of a culture issue inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, or he's looking for a new challenge. I also think maybe there's something to this whole not being able to beat Michigan thing that's really starting to affect some of the coaches at Ohio State. You heard a lot of the stuff that was going on with what was being said to Ryan Day. It was not good stuff.
No.
Completely
and it was
unacceptable.
Yeah, and it was bad enough that his wife, Nina, was getting very upset, rightly so, because we're talking about threats being made on her children. Not just online. I mean, online is one thing. You can brush those off. But this was actual in-person threats.
In-person threats.
Awful.
It was happening at school. I mean, you send your kids to school to learn. I mean, how are these kids going to learn anything if they're getting death threats at school? I mean, it's the wildest thing. And also, guys, it's football. Calm down.
Right.
But the fact that, I mean, there was a poll taken. I can't remember who did it. And of course, I can't remember who did it because it would be relevant to the conversation. But there was a poll taken before the Michigan game, and it asked Ohio State fans, would you prefer a national title or a win over Michigan? And it was 60% win over Michigan.
Yeah.
So if that's really how they feel, then, and I say they, knowing full well that a lot of Michigan fans would feel the same way in opposite. I think a lot of Michigan fans would be like, I don't care if we win the Natty as long as we beat Ohio State. I personally just like football. So when Michigan wins a game, I'm happy. That's right. And then if Michigan loses a game, I still go to work on Monday morning, and it's great.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, you can't tell me that after the Michigan game and now after having won a Natty, that all of a sudden that's actually flipped. But maybe it has right now because of recency bias. I bet you if you take that poll right now, a majority of Buckeye fans would say, yeah, we prefer the Natty. I mean, who cares about the Michigan game? But as soon as November comes around, actually, as soon as the new season comes around, as soon as August comes around, Ohio State fans, what are they going to say? See you in November.
Right. It all starts over again.
It all starts over again. They're going to, you take that poll in September, you take that poll in October, all Buckeye fans are going to say, and Michigan fans would do the same thing, we'd prefer a win over the rival than a national title.
Mm-hmm.
And then the game happens, and I bet you anything that the numbers would flip again.
Well, and that leads me to knowing that, moms don't forget this kind of stuff. Moms are very protective, obviously. She's not going to forget this. Nina Day isn't going to forget this. The pressure is still on Ryan Day from her, probably, to either leave this job behind or find some way to fix it. I don't know how you fix it other than leaving the job behind. My theory on this is, and I'll let you break this down, but my theory on this is that we now know that Chip Kelly is, well, I shouldn't say we know that. The rumors are that Chip Kelly is possibly he's either being looked at or has been offered NFL positions. Whether he's looking for them or not, I don't know. But then what makes me wonder is if Jim Knowles is already gone, Chip Kelly has got these rumors. Is it all because Ryan Day has already told them he's leaving, and and this is, I think, good on him, he is giving them a chance to find their jobs before he announces his? Because I think it's entirely possible that Ryan Day has already found a new job and is just waiting for these guys to announce so that he can announce his. My reasoning behind that, again, it's Nina Day. It's the pressure to beat Michigan is so outrageous that I don't know why any coach would want to deal with that. Mm-hmm. But then also it was just announced today that they're suddenly in contract negotiations. Now, I know they're going to say contract negotiations happen all the time. Right after a big win, they're always going to renegotiate contracts. But a few days ago, they said it was a lock that Ryan Day was going to be coach at Ohio State for as long as he wanted. The AD loves him. Ryan Day loves it there. But now after Jim Knowles leaves, and that's critical, Jim Knowles leaves, and now all of a sudden they're talking about contract negotiations with Ryan Day. So what do you think? You can talk about Chip Kelly first if you want, but let's get to Ryan Day also. What do you think's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of made the point that I was trying to make, is that like the pressure to beat Michigan is starting to have an effect, not just on Ryan Day and his mental health and the players and their mental health. And I don't mean to say mental health to be a pushover. I mean, Ryan Day has mental health issues that run in his family, and that's very sad, and we wish him all the best, obviously. But the fact of the matter is that beating Michigan seems to be just, I mean, it's a big deal. Obviously, It's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, and let me interject for just a second, because it's not even just winning. If the game is close, if Michigan is allowed to keep the score close and still lose, he still gets pressured. That still happens to Ohio State coaches.
Yeah. And I mean, and yeah, so you're right though. I mean, the pressure, I don't know that we could ever fully wrap our minds around it unless we were in that type of situation. Cause like when we were going through the 20-ish year drought with, we had the one win in 2011. I mean, I was obviously born in 94. I had seen a couple of Michigan victories over Ohio State, but like my beef was with Michigan State, not Ohio State. So to me, it was like, yeah, I'm apathetic to the whole thing. We lose to Ohio State every year. They're just an amazing team. All right, that's life. Now that the tables have turned and things have kind of flipped, I think that whoever is the next head coach of Ohio State, or whoever the next head coach is that can beat Michigan, will immediately get a statue erected in their honor because of it. But that being said, I think that the pressure to beat Michigan is starting to affect tertiary personalities in this situation. So yeah, Nina Day is having issues with it. The children are having issues with it, and they shouldn't be. That's not fair to them. This is supposed to be football. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be, I mean, it's their jobs. It's not just fun, but you get it. I think so. In terms of what's going on with Chip Kelly, it's all rumors and stuff like that. I don't think that you can read too much into the fact that Ryan Day is in contract negotiations, and does that mean that Chip Kelly is also looking at these other places? I think that we can't speculate until it actually happens, because we have no idea what's going on there. I think Chip Kelly's name is getting thrown around for NFL jobs the same reason Jim Harbaugh's is because they're NFL caliber coaches. Chip Kelly's a good coach. Chip Kelly is a great offensive mind. Of course, NFL's teams are going to be looking at him. Of course, NFL teams were looking at Jim Harbaugh. He had already gotten to the Super Bowl. Yeah, he lost it, but whatever. You just
to his brother. I mean,
at least it stayed in the family.
Yeah.
I think the point is that I don't want to speculate, because I don't want to be like, oh, yeah, man, Ryan Day's in contract negotiations. We know how this goes. Da, da, da. It could very well be that he comes out and says, I want one more shot at Michigan or something. I don't know. But I do have to wonder at this point, given, death threats? Really? Given the fact that those happened, I frankly, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be shocked, but not surprised if Ryan Day did end up leaving Ohio State sometime this offseason. And quite frankly, I wouldn't blame him. I think it's kind of interesting as a man and as a husband. If my wife came to me and said, we don't feel safe here because of your inability to beat Michigan.
Ouch.
I would be like, okay, that's unacceptable. I don't care if we have to actually start stealing signs or something. We're beating Michigan this year, because I'm not going to let my wife think that I am that much of a wimp. Or if he said, look, sometimes things just don't work out. Michigan has our number, and the Ohio State fan base is this toxic. I need to get my family out of here, and I need to swallow my pride and do that. I think that's just as honorable as staying and having another go at Michigan, frankly. And, frankly, I think we're also at the point where if he can't beat 2024 Michigan, he's likely not going to beat Michigan ever again. The next one's in Ann Arbor. Michigan's going to have just as good, if not better, a defense. Bryce Underwood might be starting, and he might be a freshman phenom who's gone in 3 years. It's not going to get any easier for him. So if he wanted to take off, again, shocked but not surprised.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I guess the reason I bring it up is because it all sounds very familiar. We had the same thing with Harbaugh, where it was like, no, he's going to stay, and Ward Manuel was saying, no, he's going to stay, and we're going to do everything we can to keep him. And Jim Harbaugh was like, oh, I want to be at Michigan for the rest of my life. And then Tuesday happens and he's gone. And it was all because all of a sudden they started talking about contract negotiations, and then it was over. So it sounds familiar. So I don't know. Why risk it? Just take the natty and walk away a winner. Yeah. And call it good.
He's destroying everyone else. I don't know that anyone would blame him. And he's got the one win over Michigan. It's not like he's winless either.
Right.
I wouldn't blame him. Like, he's got a natty. He's got NFL prospects. Go, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and I'm saying that as someone who wants him to stay, because that would essentially guarantee Michigan victories over Ohio State for the foreseeable future, apparently.
And I was just going to ask, what do you think this means for Michigan?
Yeah, what is the state of the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry as it stands right now anyway? You've got, oh my gosh, you've got people in every different camp right now who you've got Ohio State fans who are like, we won the national championship. I don't give a crap about your 13-10 win. Have fun watching us in the playoffs, herp to derp, and rent free and all that BS and stuff like that. And as a Michigan fan, I'm like, okay, actually, you know what? I'll speak as a college football fan first. The fact that Ohio State lost to their rival, a 6-5 Michigan team, lost to Oregon, didn't have a conference championship, and they were allowed to play for a national title. Again, I'm not saying that because it's Ohio State. I would be saying that about anybody who was in that exact situation. Again, I said Boise State and Arizona State shouldn't have been in the playoffs because neither of them did anything to warrant playing for a national title. And I guess that's not really their fault. Maybe they need to join a better conference and prove themselves. I don't know. That's why we need relegation. The point is that the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry is, by nature of there being more supply of football games, less meaningful. Ohio State was able to lose to Michigan, and because of the playoff being a 12-team situation rather than just the 4-team situation, they were able to lose to 6-5 Michigan and still win the national championship. And you could say, yeah, but at least Michigan, the Michigan-Ohio State game decided that Ohio State wouldn't go to the Big Ten championship. Yeah, big freaking deal. The conference championships are going to be a thing of the past here soon anyway, because they're going to want to expand the playoffs to try and encompass that into the playoffs. Right. However they decide to do that, I don't know. There are rumors swirling about a bunch of different things. All of it's nonsense. The playoffs should be 4 teams, if that big. Frankly, I kind of want to go back to the BCS at this point. But all of that being said, Michigan and Ohio State can play the final game of the season. They could also theoretically meet up in the Big Ten championship. They could also then meet up in the playoffs if things shook out the proper way. So does this game actually mean anything anymore? I mean, sure, you could say, yeah, of course, beating Michigan's always going to mean everything to us. Except then you made it to the national championship and said, who cares about your 13-10 win? Congratulations. Have fun with the sanctions when the hammer comes down on you. Clearly you don't care. And yet when the season comes around, September, October, 60% of people want the win over Michigan over the Natty. Make up your minds. All right, I'm done.
All right. Well, we'll leave it right there. That's enough getting upset with Ohio State fans. But here we go. What do you think about what we think? Leave a comment and let us know. And be constructive. Don't just hate post. It's a waste of your time and ours. And it hurts my feelings. You can find us on X. My handle is Dog Team Rivalry, DAWG Team Rivalry. And Mac is Big Ten Team Rivalry. That's B1G Team Rivalry. Stop by and give us a follow. If you want more great analysis on college football, check out all the shows right here on Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football. You can also catch Mac and I on the Big Ten Team Rivalry channel right here on YouTube. Mac, take us out.
This is Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football.